Thanks for joining me again. Mark Speaks. Let's talk about it. So you guys know I've been studying cell biology, microbiology, cell differentiation, determination, just looking at the sciences, the various sciences in general, and trying to draw a better understanding of how these laws and these rules apply to us. I always say that we are the universe. We are the universe, right? The universe don't exist outside of us. We don't exist outside of it. There's no separation between you and I and the universe. The universe is not a thing. It is a composition of a variety of things, of various things, from micro to macro. You and I are intricate parts. We are just parts of a whole. We work together as a whole to make the wheel of the universe turn, so to speak. So when we say these laws, when I say these laws are what govern the universe, these laws are what govern you and I. And it's important that we get that, right? That we digest that and gestate on that, right? Really let that sink in. Once we get that, then we understand that, how entropy. I want to discuss, like I said, entropy. You saw my last video. I talked about entropy, and entropy is entropy's the standard definition of entropy is is disorderly deterioration over time, right? That's entropy. So the entropy of the second law of thermodynamics says that the entropy of the universe increases over time. What that means is that over time things go into chaos, confusion, deteriorate, and disorder. This is a natural process. So therefore there must be a rebuttal to this. It must be confronted, and it's something that you have to work to slow down the process of, because you can't stop it. And the reason you can't stop it, if you think about age, right? There's an entropic effect on us naturally as we age. Our skin begins to lose the elasticity, and it wrinkles, and that's a result of entropy. And the mechanism of that entropy uses to do that to us is called oxidation. You speak to any dermatologist, they'll tell you this. So our skin is a result of that, and we die ultimately. So that's entropy in and of itself. So that's the second law of thermodynamics, that everything at the end of the day in the universe ultimately goes into deterioration or some kind of gradualism or gradual decay. So when we understand that, you understand if you meet your woman and you with your woman, like fellas, relationships, we have to watch out for entropy, because entropy is built into everything we do. So this is why a lot of times our relationships fall into these states of boredom, or, we just become complacent or sad or depressed, or, a lot of people are unhappy with the relationships. Thinking it's her, thinking it's him. No, it could be. I'm not saying it's not, but what you have to understand is that outside of the two of you, there's also a force that's working against you, and it's called entropy. Inertia, right? Another force that works against relationships. Inertia says that Galileo wrote several papers on inertia, and inertia is, by definition, it's a tendency of things to remain unchanged. It's a natural tendency found in the universe, in matter, in objects, of a resistance. There's a built-in resistance within our DNA to change. Now, we see that in relationships, right? I say that I'm 40 years old, so I'm speaking to my contemporaries, right? If you're a 40-year-old man or woman that haven't settled in with someone, right? You're still out there, you're still trying to find the right person. I get it, it's hard, you're dating, you're da-da-da. The longer you're out there, the longer you're searching, the longer you're seeking, the more inertia is being settled in on you, right? Outside of science, we would say you get stuck in your ways, right? Everybody understands that, right? The older we get, the more we get set in our ways. Okay, there's the scientific explanation to that is inertia, right? There's a science to that as to why that happens. So the older we get, the more inertia sets in, and we become a walking, talking avatar of inertia, or a personification of inertia. You are less likely to adapt to someone else's views. You're more or less likely to adapt to someone sharing your space, or you sharing their space, or sharing your resources, or just you become so settled in inertia that adaptation for you becomes very, very difficult. So therefore it mitigates the possibilities for you to reconcile or to harmonize or to amalgamate with someone to create something of lasting, consequence to your community as a whole, right? So inertia is built in as we age, right? The older we get, the more inertia settles in. So we got to be conscious of these things, right? So we could combat them, right? The more we are conscious of them, the more we can, like I always say, if I know that someone is going to rob my house, I have a chance to protect myself. If I knew in advance, like next week, someone's going to break into my house, I could take some steps, some measures to protect my house. But if I don't even know that there's a armed robber or a thief that's coming next week, then I'm more susceptible. I'm vulnerable. So knowing about these laws or these forces that are inescapable, unavoidable, governs, regulates us as macro molecules of the universe. We're molecular structured organisms. Knowing that these things are working on us 24/7, it gives you an advantage, right? You have an advantageous approach. So, those are two forces that we ought to be mindful of. The third that I want to talk about is butterfly effect. Butterfly effect is another force that pretty much says small or tiny minuscule alterations can have cataclysmic consequences, cataclysmic events. Small changes, large consequences. That's butterfly effect. That's also chaos theory. Chaos theory and butterfly effect are hand in hand. And if we understand that, fellas, how many times, she goes off the third rail on you. She goes off the edge. She goes off the deep end because you ate the last chicken wing, or you didn't pick up your phone on time, or you came home an hour late, whatever. I mean, we're grown men, right? So I don't need to give you examples. We all know what we're talking about here. Or ladies, how many times he blows up or he goes off the edge, and then you think about it like, well, it was something so small. And it usually is, right, fellas? It's something that we like. It's not even that serious. Why are you acting so crazy? But these are consequences of these different forces, whether it's the butterfly effect, whether it's chaos theory. These are things that's built into us because we're biochemical creatures. Bio pertains to life. So we're biochemical creatures. We are chemicals that have animation, that have the life force or the life form. So therefore, we're biochemical creatures. And as with chemicals, we know, you don't have to be a scientist to know, but chemicals, if they're not mixed or managed properly, can have reactions that are very violent, can have violent reactions. That's why we blow up sometimes. That's why we have these outbursts as human beings, because at core, that's what we are. We're with a variety of chemicals that are mixed and our chemicals need to remain what's called in homeostasis. Homeostasis or homeostasis, tomato, however you want to say it. Homeostasis is the balancing of all these chemicals, and our body does that naturally. Our endocrine, it's called the endocrine system, governed by the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. It balances us. It balances all the chemicals in our bodies. And when our bodies go out of whack, when our chemicals are out of whack, then we get, we have sicknesses, whether it's physical, psychological, whatever the case may be. So understanding the forces that are working against us. I don't want to go too much into go off the point or the subject matter here. Understanding that inertia, got allergies. Understanding that inertia, what else? What is it? Entropy, second law of thermodynamics. Understanding these things, butterfly effect, chaos theory. Understanding these forces, they won't solve all your problems. Facts, they won't. But they do give you if you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, great book, read that years ago, or 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, another good book. If you read these books, they have one thing in common. They talk about knowing your opponent, knowing your enemy thoroughly, having a thorough understanding of what your opponent is. If you understand what these forces are, how they work against us, it gives you an advantage. Like I said before, it gives you some leverage, and it's not going to make all your problems go away, but it damn sure will mitigate your problems. Okay, it will damn sure it will teach you how to move. Right, you'll just know how to move a little bit more graceful and how to handle and cope with situations, so that you don't have to be taking all these pills for depression, or getting the pharmaceutical companies putting money into their pockets through your insurance because of you needing to be on some kind of sedative to keep you calm and relaxed, or to sleep at night, right? You can learn to sleep. You can learn to relax. You can learn to calm yourself down. So again, I don't have all the answers. Definitely don't have this whole thing figured out. I got my own issues, you know. Not perfect by any stretch of the measure or stretch of the imagination, but I am definitely finding some solutions to the questions. I'm finding some answers. I'm finding, you know, things are starting to make sense to me. And I hope that the information I'm sharing with you guys can answer some of the questions in your own lives. Because one thing, I might live on the other side of the planet or the other side of the block. At the end of the day, we still share that human fiber, and all of humanity struggles. All of humanity hurts. And we all experience, if not the same, very similar trials and tribulations, and have similar questions, right? We all grapple with at some point in our lives. So again, inertia, entropy, research them, look them up. If this video was just a spark, a trigger, a catalyst, if this video was just something to have that enzymatic reaction, something that just kind of put that battery, turn that switch on in your brain, go out there, read up around some the thermodynamics, the second law of entropy. Read up on that. Read up on inertia. You know, further your studies on it. Read on chaos theory. Read on butterfly effect. Definitely delve into it. And I can assure you, if you really spend some time studying it, you'll understand how you can apply it to your relationships. Okay? So hopefully you got something out of this. Till next time, y'all know what I'm gonna be doing. Cooking these books with a whole new meaning.